Here from Blood, Sweat and Metal. How you going, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good, and thanks for joining us. We spoke last time, roughly just after the last Soundwave. So 2 years from now, you got a new album, a new tour. You guys must be looking forward to getting back on the road after all the negative stuff that came out last year in the media.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we just been so excited by the response to our new album, Earn, and we had a big tour through North America at the end of last year, which was the most successful headline tour we've ever done outside of Australia, and it's been such a pleasure to have people so excited by the music and to be getting back home to Australia to perform these new songs.
Yeah, there's just been a bit of what I can say is a bit of commercial backlash with not just what happened with you guys in the band. I mean, we won't talk about what happened, but when you see other accusations from other members from other bands, people are coming out. There is a bit of I won't say a conspiracy cult hit list type of thing, but what I'm trying to say is there's a bit of a jeopardized thing of what is true and what is not true. And I think people need to understand that when you can falsely accuse someone of whatever term it shall be, there is going to be consequences, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And the positive is that everything has moved on. You've got a brand new tour and whatnot, and with all these leading dates of Australia and New Zealand, this is the next step, the next chapter with Ne Obliviscaris.
Sure. I mean, I think that, for us, sometimes people can just think that, you're guilty by association. Someone, close to you does something wrong, and all of a sudden they just presume that therefore, you must be guilty by association as well. I mean, I think that the most important thing is in a situation like that is always be, honest and upfront about the different situations. And in our situation, we had obviously a couple things bandied about online, and it was all cleared up, and we had a full public apology from some of those people that were making some ridiculous claims. And basically as soon as that happened, we got that public apology and we moved on, and just basically back to focusing on the music. And it seems everyone else has been pretty excited about the record, which has been great.
It is. Now, with this tour, you got special guest circles as well, but I want to just bring up a couple of points with the way that you guys tour. I mean, you perform in front of tens of thousands of people right around the world. You've got massive support in Asia and in the Middle East, and also in North America and Europe. I want to ask, how far do you raise the bar for yourself in performance-wise and in a professional-wise? Because there's a lot of bands now that think that, okay, we can make an album, we can go on tour, but the perception that many bands get is not as great what it should be here, but once they go overseas, everyone just floods the arenas or the clubs and that. So my question is, how high do you raise the bar for yourself, not just for the album, but when you put that show on the road and play those songs off the album for yourself?
Sure. I mean, I think that, the main thing that we do is, we aspire to be like the bands that we love, so not in regards to the music that we write, but in regards to, I guess, the quality of live performance, so I've gone and seen a lot of, really great live artists, around the world, and bands like, Devin Townsend or Dream Theater or Meshuggah or the General Escape Plan or, and many, many others. And, some of these bands that still continue to blow me away with their live performances, it really just pushes us to, I guess, continue to try to emulate that sort of quality and, put in that hard work, because it's one thing to do a recording with, a lot of the technology is available today, and it's a completely different thing to be able to pull that off live. And we've always prided ourselves as being a live band first and foremost, and just really excited to always get back on the road and show people what we can do.
Yeah. That leads me into the next question. How important is it for you guys, especially the band itself, with the way that the internet has performed a platform to use like Patreon for support? A lot of bands, a lot of smaller bands are starting to use like a fun type of page, and they get some good knickknacks out of it too. But I want to ask, how important is it for the digital world now compared to what it was back before the internet days? Because a lot of bands, or a lot of fans, I should say, not bands, a lot of fans, they only heard it from word of mouth. And if the radio stations weren't doing their job by playing their material, the fans basically created like a cult following. And it's a bit of a word of mouth, and you had like a snail mail chain and all those type of things. So fast forward into this new millennium, how important is it to have this type of platform like a crowdfunding, Patreon and so forth?
I mean, it's very important. It's made a huge amount of difference to us. I mean, the industry has just been changing enormously. I think we've been, very lucky to, have a huge amount of what I would call, I guess, digital grassroots support, by, a lot of our early following, across Australia and internationally was, metal fans talking amongst themselves on, internet metal forums and things like that, and spreading the word that way. But I guess the difference is that those fans don't really translate into as much financial income to give bands an opportunity to thrive, because the reality is it costs money to tour and costs money to put albums out, and so a lot of bands don't get albums out and don't tour as much as their fans would like, simply because there just isn't the financial backing that there used to be within the industry. The difference is now, though, of course, is with stuff that we've been doing, like we did our World Tour crowdfunding campaign in 2014, which was a big success, and then the last couple of years, we've been doing our membership subscription service, through Patreon. And what they've enabled us to do is to deal directly with our fans. So, we've decided to take advantage of the incredible connection we have with our fans in this digital age, and then work a way to basically deal and with them directly, so that we can finance the band ourselves by partnering with our fans instead of having to go through old school traditional methods.
And it just creates such a bit more of like a communication, both whether you're not communicating them directly to the fans through your Patreon account and whatnot, but what I'm saying is it is a form of communication when you put in a little bit of extra bonus, like a gift or whatever, and not only that, they actually get it sent to them as well from the band, and that's kind of like what a fan wants. They want to be cherished by their idols or whatever else, and just getting that little bit of an interaction with the band, like a thank you card or anything, that is fine. I mean, anything more than that is a bonus, but just a little welcome note and whatnot, there's a little bit of interaction. I mean, back in the old days, we used to write to bands that we love, like Kiss and Maiden and all of that, and we used to get like a hand letter written back from them, and that was a form of communication. But now you've got such a different platform now that people start using crowdfunding and stuff like that to get a little bit of extra bonus of what they order and so forth. So it's great. Let's talk about the album, shall we? Earn. It's great album, and I have listened to it and whatnot. But the thing is, with all the things that were surrounding the band at the time, and that you guys just not just necessarily put a blanket over that issue, but the album speaks for itself. You all gelled together, worked as a machine and whatnot. So on a professional level, how long did this really took you guys to gel in the studio while all the other crap behind closed doors was still going on?
we really didn't have that much of a choice in that, we had a plan in place, to record the album in March, April, and at that time, we had lined up Mark Lewis to mix the record, and I was planning to go across to Florida to help in that process, and we really didn't want to push back the album to 2018. We wanted to get it out in 2017 and to get back on the road, and we had a bunch of stuff prepared. But I mean, at the beginning of last year, we'd only written maybe half the album or so, and so a lot of it was written in February, March, in quite a, I guess, concise period of time. But I mean, for us, it basically just worked really well to, I guess, focus us, back on the other important task of, of creating the best music we possibly can. And of course, that's the reason why the band exists, to try and, create music that we love and to, share it with the world. And so it was definitely a bit of a challenge, trying not to get distracted by outside concerns and all of that sort of stuff. But, in the end, if anything, it just more kind of, banded us together even more and made us even more focused and determined to make sure that this was the best album that we'd ever done.
And also, this will be your first ever appearance in New Zealand. I found that shocking. I thought you guys already been to New Zealand before in the past, but is this your first ever performance in New Zealand? It
is. We've been playing shows for 12 years, and we've never made it to New Zealand. And that was one of the reasons why, we made sure that it was part of this tour. It was like, okay, we've been almost everywhere around the world. New Zealand's actually the closest country to us. Let's make it a priority and, find someone to bring us out there.
Yeah. I know this is going to be a bit of a funny question, but, I've been hearing a lot of things about no clean singing. And when it comes to, like, the genre of music that you guys put out, there is a little bit of clean vocals in it. But what's your input on that when people just seem to joke around about the no clean singing? Because especially the new Machine Head album that's coming out is completely different to what they've done. But what's your opinion on the clean singing side of things?
Look, obviously as the clean vocalist in the band, I love it. But I think the most important thing is for people not to get bogged down in, blanket statements of, this or that, and just focus on the quality. So there's plenty of clean singers out there which aren't any good, and there's plenty that are absolutely amazing. And so you just take everything on its merits. And it's the same with any type of musician on any instrument. There's talented people who are doing amazing things, and so if you just listen to things on their merits and give them a chance, then if some people don't like it, that's totally fine. And we create music that's a bit different to most, and some people aren't going to like it, and other people really connect with it strongly. And we respect people that aren't into what we do, and just appreciate the people who do love what we're on about with our music.
Yeah, with all the interviews I've done with certain bands over the last 4 or 5 years, the point and the message that keeps coming out is that metal will always be metal. It was the fans that decided what genre or what pigeonhole they want to put them in. And back in the old days, there wasn't really anything classified as heavy metal. It was basically rock and roll, turn up louder, played louder and faster. And then the fans decided to put certain genres of music like thrash, death metal, powercore and all that into certain genres. And I get that. But there is a bit of the divide in the metal community where if it's not thrash, they won't listen to anything else. Or if it's not black metal, they won't listen to death metal, so forth, so forth. The question I want to ask is, how do we get away from all this mumbo-jumbo garbage of, well, this band is irrelevant rather than this band? Because the golden age bands like Slayer that just announced a farewell tour, they're going very shortly. How is that going to be replicated with the new bands that coming through the grapevine as we speak? Because my theory was that when the big name bands decided they do want to depart from the music scene for whatever reason it shall be, whether it's age or whatnot, how is that going to be replicated and how is that going to be filled with the new generation of music that's coming forward?
Sure. I mean, I guess starting with your first point about genres, I mean, I guess one of the things, with Ne Obliviscaris is that, we try to be pretty, genre fluid, I guess, we just basically try to write music that we love regardless of what it sounds. So there's elements of progressive metal and melodic metal and black metal or, melodic death or death metal or thrash or, all of these different, genres are present in some ways at sometimes in our music. There's acoustic music and influence from jazz or flamenco, all that sort of stuff. And I think that the label on it is irrelevant. And I think, we're obviously a band that, I guess stands for that, I guess fluid genre approach to heavy metal. But I mean, I guess the other thing is that, with all of the, the legendary bands that have come before us and, some of them that will be leaving, in the near future and in the years to come, I mean, I think that instead of expecting like any one band to fill those voids, I mean, the industry is just so different now. Like, back in the 80s and even the 90s, bands had to be on a big record label in order to get big. And there really just weren't that many bands that were at that really high level because you had to go through a big record label. Whereas now, due to the advent of the internet and social media, there are so many bands that get to some level of success, even if it's not to that, really high level of success. So basically, fans just have a lot more choice. So instead of, everybody linking on to, 4 or 5, really big, super huge bands, now those people will spread out and, they'll be split more amongst 20 or 30 different bands that are all high quality that, appeal to different people. So, and I think that's, a good thing in that, people have, more choice to listen to as they see fit. And, I don't think we'll see too many bands of the level of those, original, bands like the Big Four and stuff like that. Because of that, because of just the incredible choice that that people have now. But I think that the amount of quality music around at the moment is
well, that's the next question fantastic. I want to ask before we wrap it up. Is the market there for the newer bands compared to what it was with the big bands that came through the 80s? I know they had a lot more support from the record labels and they had a lot more funding back then. But with these new bands that coming through, is the market there for them? I mean, the support is there. They've got their fan base and they're touring and whatnot. Great. But is the market, I think that's the question I want to ask, is the market there for them, whether it's here in Australia or overseas?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of bands doing well. There's a lot of bands pulling, big crowds all across the world. I think the live touring market is, as vibrant as it's ever been. I think basically just the challenge is then, in giving bands an opportunity to monetize that so they can continue to do that. Obviously we've come up with some solutions by using things like Patreon and stuff like that. But, there are, lots of different ways to approach that. And, I think there's definitely a lot of people out there hungry for music. It's just making sure that, you just put in the effort as a band to connect with them and tour as much as you can and just make sure you're always, honest with the music you put out and putting it out for the right reasons and putting out stuff that you love and, and then take it from there. Yeah.
Well, Ne Obliviscaris is going on tour starting on Friday the Feb 9 at Fowler Live here in Adelaide, and it's going right through to the Saturday the 24th of February over in Perth. There are a couple of dates that Circles will not be appearing, but every other date will be attending. I think the only date that Circles is not appearing are the 2 dates over in New Zealand at Auckland and Wellington. But Tim,
Yes.
thanks for joining us, man. And also, just lastly, for those ones that want to get the tickets, go to wildthingpresents.com. You can grab your tickets now; they're on sale, and you never know what you may get. You might get a couple of bonuses from the ticket mob or whatnot. I'm only joking. But whatever it shall be, please go and check it out. But Tim, thanks for joining us, man, and it's a pleasure having you, and we shall talk again very shortly.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the support.
Yes, and thanks for the support as well, for coming back on as well. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks.